Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So this is a photograph.
Yes.
And the main 2/3 of the image is of a kitchen table. Very colorful. Nice, beautiful food. It almost looks like I love food. So in one of them, it almost looks like cabbage wraps. So like purple and green cabbage with a nice kind of chutney of some sort. Then there's another small bowl with very green, bright green chutney or some kind of dip. Next to that are these like dry baked, looks like kofta, but it doesn't look like meat. So it's probably some kind of vegetarian grilled thing.
Those are tempehs.
Tempeh, nice. And then there's this very handsome man with a nice goatee and a beautiful purple shirt, which visually so I know you're a painter, so that influences how you see the world. So you understand color theory and all this stuff. So you sent me this image. So there's the balance of his very nice, shall we call it, aubergine shirt, which echoes and reinforces the red cabbage leaves. And he's just starting, because his plate is relatively clean. And he's eating one of the grilled tempeh sticks. Right.
So that's tempeh, and the other one is actually peas kebabs.
Ah, okay. Peas kebab, right.
Peas and lots of other green veggies,
nice.
Kebab, right.
Do you cook?
I do.
Now you must.
I do. I love cooking. I think it's a way of really sharing. Food for me is a very spiritual experience.
Sure.
I feel that food is a way to reconnect with Earth spiritually.
Okay.
So I was born a vegetarian, raised a vegetarian rather.
Sure.
And then some 10 years ago, I decided to become a vegan, but mostly whole plant-based vegan, which is not the same thing as just being a vegan. There's a difference.
Okay.
So in whole plant-based food, you don't really cook with oils, right? And you might think that food is pretty, how would it be tasty?
Sure.
But yeah, well, I think when people put food into their bodies, we need to engage with it on so many levels. Your body is your subconscious mind.
Okay.
And what you put into it affects your mind and your body.
Absolutely.
Right?
I agree with you. Yeah.
And there are so many things to consider which I didn't think about till I went on this journey.
Okay.
For example, is your food wholesome? The concept in Buddhist psychology about wholesomeness is it not just good for me, only for me, but is it good for the earth when I partake of it? And we don't think of that when we consume things, whether it's food, material things, objects, right? Is it ethically sourced? Is it organic? Has it been treated well? Has it been treated kindly? What is its journey to us?
Right.
Something also I wouldn't have thought about.
Right.
You're raised to eat and you really don't put that kind of thought into it. Also, is it purposeful? Am I wasting? Am I eating too much? Am I addicted to it? What's my relationship with it? Right? Then also mindful consumption. Do I need to go for a buffet? Do I need 2 grains? Exactly.
Go straight to the buffet. About as a decadent or okay,
Exactly.
got it.
So when you talk about mindful consumption, it's about, for example, when I have a meal now, I don't want to have 2 grains in it, 2 types of grains.
Okay.
So if I decide that I'm going to have quinoa,
Yeah.
I'm not going to have then something wheat or with bread with it. To keep it simple, I wouldn't say minimal at all, but enough that you take from this earth what you need without exploiting it, and you benefit from it for the fullest. So this is one aspect of consumption. So, people often ask, don't you kill plants? Right?
Right.
The argument, like.
Sure.
And this is something I really like to delve into and explain because I studied it. The difference is that plants don't have an advanced neural system. So the lower down the chain, the food chain, the lower the level of neural complexity and therefore the lower the level of harm and injury and pain.
Yeah.
Right?
Or so the idea goes, right? Like you
Yes.
think a crab is not going to feel pain.
Right. But the thing is, take a branch and cut it. What happens? It regrows.
And sometimes it bleeds in the sense of the sap oozes and
If you call that, All right, you see something oozing, but it regrows.
Right.
Or you take a stem and you put it with a flower, a bud.
Right.
You put it in a vase, what happens? It blooms.
Sure.
You cut an animal's leg, what happens? Pain and death, right?
Right.
So the concept of ahimsa
Yeah.
in Buddhist teachings or in Vedic teachings is the concept of least injury.
Right.
Now, so if you decide that you do want to take meat, then perhaps to go for something that's grass-fed so that it's seen some freedom, it's lived a life.
Sure.
So the concept is to eat and partake in a conscious manner.
Yeah, mindfulness for sure.
Mindfulness.
Yeah.
So I really like this concept of, sort of turning plant-based, because for me it was then having embarked on mindfulness and studying it in Connecticut, going for, mindfulness and meditation.
You just said
retreats.
in Connecticut?
Yes.
That is a bit of cognitive. That took a hard right. And Connecticut. Okay, we're now out in Connecticut. No, it's great. It's great. I wasn't expecting that word to come out your mouth.
So I went for a retreat,
Yeah.
which is about noble silence and doing everything, and whether you're eating or meditating, it's all about doing it with a high level of consciousness and awareness.
Right.
It really resonated with me.
Sure.
And after that, when I decided to become a vegan, then I decided to go on a culinary kind of adventure. And I started cooking some amazing stuff. And I felt that, the food that I eat today is far more delicious than the food I used to eat as a vegetarian. Because I started innovating. And I started cooking with a dehydrator. I started having kefirs. I started having fermented lentils and savories. And I don't consume sugar, so I use plant-based kind of, it could be raisins made with dates.
Right.
But overall, there's a strong connection with food in the sense that I feel it connects me back to earth, being grateful and being mindful of the resources that we either exploit or that we use to the benefit of the earth.
Okay, so one little question. I mean, you've already addressed how your connection to eating and then your connection to mindfulness and your development as a professional, as somebody who gives to the people around you. So how do you connect? So when you look at trauma, how do you connect trauma and eating? Which, if you're eating meat, is a violent. I mean, if you're disconnected from the meat that you eat, you're just like, oh, it's just meat, and you don't understand the animal. But if you know the animal and you know that, I mean, the violence that comes onto the trauma that comes onto them. So how do you connect trauma to your growth and your understanding of this very specialized way of eating?
Both have one common element, and this is the bringing the element of compassion. So whether it's food that you connect with, once you bring the element of compassion, you go beyond just what benefits you and the taste. Similarly in trauma, from my perspective, at least as a therapist, when you suspend judgment and you bring in the element of compassion and help the person who has gone through trauma, and there's a lot of shame and guilt involved in their experiences more often than not, right?
Yeah.
The first thing is to teach them to suspend judgment and to bring this self-compassion, and hard enough as it may be, even compassion for the perpetrators. But that we don't go there always, depending on whether the patient or the client is ready.
Sure.
But the common thread is always compassion in what we do and how we approach issues in our lives and what we partake of in life.
Fascinating. The connection I'm making is when I think her name is Karina Calver. Her thing was, from the Western perspective, like in terms of counseling and helping others, it goes to acceptance and reaches acceptance. But from the Western, Eastern side, and for her, Buddhism was very important for her own dealing with trauma. For her, the higher level, you use the word compassion. In her vocabulary, she would say forgiveness. So how does forgiveness fit into or does it fit? I'm just kind of connecting the dots. So how would you connect that?
Forgiveness is never about the forgiven, it's about the forgiver. So from that perspective, forgiveness doesn't mean you condone what's been done to you. Forgiveness in this sense is about you moving from your past to a place of inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
And that inner peace has got nothing to do with the other person. It's got to do with the decision that you make, that you want to let go of the anger or the bitterness, or move away from the past to reduce the, I would say, emotional charge connected with that experience.
Yeah.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.